Hello everyone, this is Badger, Cheeseball, and we are at some event, and Badger just won. He beat me
Yeah,
twice in 3 games.
yeah, I got lucky.
Yeah, no, he played well. He plays in a style that either he's first or he's last, but he got his last early on, and he got his first.
Yeah. I had some really rough games to start with. Had a last and then a second last, and it's a 4-round robin to get to the finals, and with 36 players, the top 16 make the finals, and I was sitting 33 out of 36 players after 2 rounds with 2 rounds to go, and I'm like, this is probably not how I want to start the weekend, right? But yeah, then from there I won 5 games in a row of Uprising to win the whole thing, which is pretty lucky.
Yeah, I mean, I sitting here after round 2, like, I'm just glad to be here.
Yeah, to be fair, we have such a good time just hanging out with people. I'm really happy for anyone that is having a good time, and if people win, that's great. But, I mean, the experience is worth more than winning in my mind. But I mean, winning's good too, I suppose. But I think everyone's just happy to be here and have a good time.
Yeah. It's just very glad to be around. So today I'm here with Badger. We're going to ask him about the leader he's very good with and that he won the grand finals with, which is Lady Margot. Lady Margot has won both tournaments so far. So what do you think about Lady Margot?
Why? She's amazing.
Okay. When you look at her card, it doesn't seem amazing. It seems basic. It seems weak.
Yeah, well, it's strong because I think one of the biggest parts of Uprising that's initially overlooked, like you look at Uprising and go, wow, worms, they're strong. Like I want to do something with combat and worms, but when you actually start reading the intrigues in a lot of the cards, the interaction with spies, there's a lot of interaction with spies. So when you actually are looking at places you want to go to around the board, you need to drop spies around to make sure that you aren't blocked, but also so you can use them to draw cards. And as you played with your game, you'll know that being able to cycle through your deck by Spice Must Flow is super important. So in order to do that, you need to be able to draw cards. Now, back in Immortality, we use spots like Mentat to be able to draw cards really easily and get an extra action. And the new Mentat spot is actually a lot harder to do. So the ability to draw, even with Research Station drawing 2 cards, getting 2 water in this game, typically you want to use your water also for worms. So once again, you split on your priorities with worms as to how to draw cards. Lady Margot, it's like if you play your Signet Ring, you've effectively turned Arrakeen into Research Station. You don't have to spend any water at all. You just drop that spy next to Arrakeen, and the next time you go there, if you want, and if you're going for the Spice Must Flow, or you want to cycle your deck because you've got your Diplomacy in your discard pile, or your Shashakli, or was the Arrakis, the one with 3 swords on the bottom of it, Arrakis Revolt.
Yeah.
You've got Arrakis Revolt in your discard pile, and you really need to cycle back through so you can draw it next turn and keep your good cards coming through. You can go to Arrakeen, you can pull that spy off. And when I was doing that with Shashakli, that's like 3 cards and you trash a card, and you're able to pick up, you start picking up your good cards every turn. So that's the power of Margot, is the ability to be able to cycle your deck when you want, draw those extra cards when you absolutely need to. And if you're in a turn where you're like, you know what, the cards in my hand at the moment are, not that great. I don't really want to cycle what's in my discard pile. You don't have to. You can just go, you know what, I'll leave the spy there for next turn. And that can actually help block other people as well, where, people might want to put their spies there. But even like going for Siege Taba, you can put a spy there, and that way, often the person who get worms first will go to Siege Taba just to block anyone else getting the hooks. So you can put your spy over there. You can get hooks whenever you want. Like, they can't stop you. So that's the power of it. Now, the other powerful part about it cards is the passive, the 2 spies. And I think that's overlooked because 2 spies sounds good, but turn 5 and 6, you're looking at turn 7 combat, and getting 5 spices, it's so important for turn 7, especially if you found a way to put a spy on the spacing guild. So that's so you can go highlight on that turn 7 combat, pick up some really good rewards. So Margot's second bump on the Benny friendship giving you 2 spies. Sometimes you're looking around, there's no bonus spice on the board, the combat doesn't have spice. If you can just go to secrets, get an intrigue, get your 2 spies, and sometimes that's what it takes to get the 5 spies. It's just a reliable 2 spies you can get every game.
Dude, it's quite interesting that you mentioned this. Like, I find myself in a lot of games, right? I go Imperial for either 2 or 3 spies. Like, as like one of my early actions, I have to do it because it sets you up so well on like refinery, on espionage, right? That first use spice is a full action early in the game, right? And that you, I think if you look at it from like value point of view, right? Like 2 spice in the late game is like it's barely a high earner, but like 2 spice early in the game is like it's like a full early action, right? That you're getting, and the game's, I think uprising is very tempo based, right? And so you get so much tempo with your early spies, with this 2 spies. I think that it like powers you enough up to like buy good cards and kind of like
That's absolutely right. So I know, and I can't remember the final exactly. My head's still spinning a bit from it, to be honest. But in the final, one of the cards I actually got early was Arrakis Revolt. Yeah. And I think having the Arrakis Revolt, I was able to play the active once, which cost me 2 spice, but that's fine. I had the spice for that. But the reveal effect, I think I may have revealed it 3 times to 3 swords, which really powered me through that mid-game to be able to... I ultimately won 5 out of 7 combats in the final, which if you can win 5 out of 7 combats in the final, I mean, you're probably looking okay. So the Arrakis Revolt, though, to be able to get that card, you need 6 buy power, and the way I was able to do that, I'm fairly certain I was able to pull a spy to be able to draw an extra card to give myself the extra buy power to be able to get a 6 cost. Now, other leaders, like, you just can't go and draw cards. You might go to Arakeen and draw 1. You might be able to go up to...
5.
Like up the top, what's the spot with the intrigue and the extra
halls? I think we call assembly hall.
Assembly hall. Yeah, that's right. To be able to put your dagger up there to get an extra buy power, but typically to get 6 buy power, you need to draw your 2 convincings. But if you can, Arakeen with the spy, I mean, getting 6 buy power is not a big deal for Margot. Yes. You can get these really good cards in your deck. You're cycling the cards often by pulling that spy, whether it's on Arakeen, if it's on Siege Tabor, like you can draw a card at Siege Tabor, it's like Arakeen plus, right? You're getting a water as well. I was sitting there in the game with water everywhere because I could go to Siege Tabor and still draw a card, especially with Shashakli, right? It was nuts. So, and I think understanding what's in your discard pile and draw pile and making sure that on certain turns you have things where you want them is just so important in Uprising, because there's so many games, the feel bad moment where you draw your hand, you're like, oh, I've got 2 daggers of Dune and 2 convincing arguments, you're like, I've got a dead action. Like Margot, you can avoid that just by manipulating your deck and using that draw power with the spies.
Okay, so I'll just fire off some quick questions, okay? So when do you pick Margot?
When? I don't know, it's my comfort food. It's like when you eat chocolate.
So, and you pick Margot any...
No, so the strongest card with Margot is Rebel Supplier. We know this, but
mini strike fleet.
It's a blue access. That's all it's got. But because you've got the spies on the board, you can go there. You got to lift the spy anyway, so you can't get blocked if you're using your signet ring. You get two extra troops. You get whatever reward. If it's Arakeen, it's 3 troops into combat. And you get to draw a card. If it's Siege Tabor, it's 3 extra troops in the combat. You get your hooks, you get a water. Even if, and I've done this before, you go research station. If you've got the water to do that, it's like, that's Highliner pretty much, right? That's 4 troops into combat for 2 water. And if you've got a spy there, you're drawing 3 cards as well. It's just, on turn 7 to do that, and someone's like, oh, Highliner, I'm going to win the game. Like, I'm putting 4 troops in, drawing 3 cards. You got something like Arrakis Revolt in your deck with swords or something like that. You can cause some damage. It also really synergizes well with the 1-cost card, Unrelenting
Loyalty.
Yeah. So it's a 1-cost card that you can put, if you've got Fremen Bond, you can actually push another troop in, or you can retreat a troop. So the Rebel Supplier being a Fremen also really powers cards like that as well, or even Shashakli with the Fremen bump. And there's other Fremen cards that might give you water. So yeah, it's just such a strong card, and it can set you up with Fremen fighting strategy. The only downside, and this can be a trap, is you might think, I'm going to win heaps of combats with this, and you will. Like, you feel like Gurney plus once you start doing that kind of thing. But the downside is that it doesn't have faction access. So you've got to be really disciplined with your drafting to make sure that the other cards you're drafting, like I normally go for the 3-2 rule. I want to get 3 cards drafted that I've got access to. That way, in theory, each turn I've got 4 access cards floating around my deck with my diplomacy, and then I'll typically draft throughout a game maybe two cards, or if we can do a 3rd card that doesn't have faction access. So I might get the Rebel Supplier, Unswerving Loyalty, it's called, I just remembered. Unswerving Loyalty, and maybe I might get 1 more if I trade. And typically if I do get the Rebel Supplies, is that what we said it was?
Rebel Spy.
Yeah, Rebel Spy. I'll trash my recon because otherwise you're just stuck with just blue access in your deck everywhere. So often I will actually trash the recon very early on if I know I'm going to buy it. And typically other people won't get it because it's not that good unless you've got the spies and the blue spots. It's just a Margot card. So if you see a Rebel Spy out there, you snap pick Margot, and then but you still got to look for your faction cards as you're going through it. But if that's not there, it also works really well with cards like Strike Fleet. Now, I've said plenty of times, Strike Fleet is hands down the best card. I mean, I know there's Guild Spy fans out there. No, Strike Fleet's the best card in the game. Now, with Strike Fleet, though, the only downside is you need a spy to activate it. If you don't have a spy, you're revealing for 3 swords, which is still very strong, don't get me wrong. But if you want to use the active, you've got to have a spy somewhere. And outside of Staban, which I think Staban is probably even better on, but outside of Staban, like, there's no other leader. Actually, sorry, that's not true either. Faye can do it also, but Margot is just, it's 50-50, right? Because you can only typically get 2 throughout the course of the game. But yeah, with Margot, it's every single turn, and it's on a blue spot, where often with Staban, you want to put a spy up, you might do it up in the green to get coins, you might decide to put it on secrets, like an Benny. So Margot, you got to go there anyway. So, and when you do go there, once again, it's like your research station. That's literally highline of a 2 water. Not to mention the 3 cards you're going to draw if you lift your spy, which you got to lift the spy anyway with Strike Fleet. It's just wrong. But there's also things like Public Spectacle. Once again, Public Spectacle, you need to have a spy out there somewhere. And this is the thing. It's the theme, right? Public Spectacle, one of the strongest cards in the game. Even if you happen to go to Arakeen with it, you're still getting a free bump somewhere else. And if you can get spies out on your faction spots, it's double. It's like power play. But there's so many other cards that are like got spy access that you can just use. There's another one that's it's a 2-cost card with Imperial access, but it's also got spy access. And if you happen to go to a spot with a spy, you get a free intrigue. So it's like Carthag, like in the old game, right? And everyone loved Carthag, right? So So and it's like another flexible card. So, but yeah, even the So when I'm looking at the row, like if those cards are there, I'm just snapping that up straight away. But in the final, I got past. I can't remember. There's Jessica, which just threw away straight away. I'm not playing Jessica, but when I saw Margot was there, I'm like, okay, it actually doesn't matter what comes up in the row. I know that as long as I've got the spies, I can make it work. I can cycle my deck, and I can set myself up.
There were a few Margot players, very few. There were very few Margot players. All the Margot players did very well. There was you, there was Jimmy, there was Andrew, and then there's Luna. All 4 Margot players did really well this tournament, right? And I think there's a lot of skill to have recognized, to look at Margot and to look beyond how simple it looks, like how basic everything feels, how weak it feels compared to some of the other leaders, and to have confidence in that pick. So congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean,
carry you.
Yeah, it did. It's interesting in the finals. The other leaders I played in the games I wasn't given Margot was actually Fade, right?
Yeah.
For the same reason, right? You signal ring first turn, you put the spy out. So I think it's about just having the spies in general. It's just such a critical part of this game, and yeah, I was very lucky to be able to hand it. I mean, I thank you for not picking Margot for me, because I don't know what I would have done if I would have had to pick Gurney or something, right? That would have been terrible.
Yeah, but congratulations on your win, and this is the Margot guy, at least.
Margot guy, right?
Anyway,
no, thank you, Cheese. Thank you for being in the game with me and having a good time with me, and I'm hoping we can do it again soon, maybe one day.
Yeah. You guys just gonna win the next one as well?
Nah, not Cheese's turn.
See you.